How life insurance saved a university from closing. During a time of social distancing and limited contact with others, social media became an important place to interact. Social media platforms helped the world remain connected, largely increasing usage during the pandemic. Could we have imagined managing to live through the pandemic without Google, YouTube, or WhatsApp mainly amongst the others? What if neither existed? So, what is common between all these great personalities and organizations and many, many more? Stanford University. Motto: The wind of freedom blows. Yes, this is the true story of Stanford University. That's Leland Stanford, Jane Stanford, and Leland Stanford Jr. Did you know that Stanford University was saved by the life insurance policy of Leland Stanford, a former lawyer, governor of California, railroad magnate, part-time winemaker, and a horse breeder? All three members of the family were instrumental in creating Stanford University, one of the world's leading research and teaching institutions. If Stanford University hadn't survived, we probably would have never heard of many great names I mentioned in the beginning, or ever would have heard of some of the great organizations they created. Life insurance saved this family's legacy to the world. How to save a university from closing? Sometimes the death benefit saves the day. Pacific Mutual Life Insurance Policy Number 1, ceremoniously presented to Leland Stanford on May 9, 1868, was destined for its own place in the history books. A reproduction of the Pacific Mutual's first policy, which helped keep the doors open at Leland Stanford Junior University after Leland Stanford's death, from the Pacific Life archives. After losing his son Leland Jr. to typhoid fever in 1884, at the age of 15, the former California governor and US Senator and his wife, Jane Stanford, determined that because they could no longer do anything for their only child, they would use their wealth to do something for other people's children. Practical ideas for a real education. In 1891, Leland Stanford Junior University, known today as Stanford University, opened its doors. Founded as a memorial to Leland and Jane Stanford's only son, the university was a legacy created to educate the children of California tuition free. The university did not charge any tuition fee until 1920 and still does not charge any tuition fees for families earning less than $150,000 per year, and for families earning less than $100,000 per year, they pay no tuition or room and board. With a strong belief in the importance of a practical education for men and women that would prepare them to be productive and successful. 6 years of planning led them to establish Leland Stanford Junior University in Palo Alto in 1891, with a pioneer class of 555 students, including Herbert Hoover, the 31st President of the United States. Hoover Dam is named after him. However, the university was almost forced to close only 2 years after it opened. After Leland Sr.'s death in 1893, he left his affairs in a tangled web of legal issues and too many bills to keep the lights on, to the point where Jane tried unsuccessfully to sell her treasured jewel collection in 1897 to come up with the funds. The university started facing financial difficulties. Worse, his death came during the Panic of 1893, a serious national crisis in which hundreds of banks failed and cash tightened. Leland's widow could not obtain money to sustain the university. The San Francisco Examiner headline declared, "No pay for the professors," and the situation became dire. Fortunately, Jane then discovered that her husband had taken out a life insurance policy nearly 20 years earlier. She received a check for $10,000, over $250,000 or even more in today's dollars. Determined to preserve the university and avoiding a temporary closure, Jane used her husband's life insurance policy proceeds to help fund operations and pay faculty, allowing Stanford University to weather a dangerous 6-year period of financial distress, and allowed it to become one of the country's finest educational institutions. Life insurance keeps you afloat even in turbulent times. As reported to The Spectator in 1918, Mrs. Stanford testified that was the money that kept the doors of the university open. If not for the life insurance policy, Stanford may not have lasted. Insure your family's future and prepare them to bounce back. These are just one of the countless real life stories of individuals as well as institutions and organizations that have benefited from life insurance, with the exception of Stanford University, which benefited from the death proceeds. All are amazing success stories and brands we might never have heard of if it weren't for life insurance. Stanford University today comprises of 7 schools and 18 interdisciplinary institutes with more than 16,000 students, 2,100 faculty, and 1,800 postdoctoral scholars. Stanford is an international institution enrolling students from 50 US states and 91 other countries. It is also an athletics powerhouse with 900 current student athletes and a history of 128 national titles and 22 consecutive Learfield Sports Directors Cups awarded to the top intercollegiate athletics program in the nation. At the 2016 Global Entrepreneurship Summit hosted by Stanford, President Barack Obama, the 44th President of the United States, praised the university as a place that celebrates our ability as human beings to discover and learn and to build, to question, to reimagine, to create new ways to connect and work with each other. Stanford alumni have founded numerous companies. A study by 2 Stanford professors determined that companies founded by the university's alumni create nearly $3 trillion in economic impact each year and has created 5.4 million jobs. For example, Alphabet Incorporated or Google, YouTube, WhatsApp, Cisco, HP, PayPal, SpaceX, Netflix, Yahoo, LinkedIn, Dolby Laboratories, Logitech, Instagram, Sun Microsystems, Snapchat, to name a few. We almost use each of these on a daily basis. Stanford University's journey began on November 11, 1885, from a vision and completed 137 successful years and continues its journey into the future and beyond. As quoted by Jane Stanford, but for that money, the doors of Leland Stanford Junior University would have been closed, perhaps forever. Who knows? Thank you, Life Insurance, for giving us one of the finest institutions. May the force of life insurance be with you. Please go through the description for the sources for this presentation. I've shared the link to my next presentation, Myth, I am too young, I don't need life insurance, at the end of this presentation. And do not forget to check out the playlist for more presentations. If there is something to gain and nothing to lose by asking, by all means ask. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. I sincerely appreciate it. Namaste.